What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Bodybuilding. I'm your host, Logan Schultz, and I'm with my co-host, Ian Powell. Buddy, how have things been going?
It's been going pretty good, man. I think it's been a while since we've talked, and competition season is in full swing. We've had a few competitors so far, and then now resting up a little bit before Republic of Texas in a few weeks, which we both have done that show. We both really like that show, I
Great
think.
show. Yep.
So if you're out there listening, if you ever get a chance, it's a great show to just even go to just to attend because you do see some pros. It's in a nice hotel. It's making a nice little weekend experience of it, but it's been good. Been very happy so far with the way my athletes have been coming in. Still got some more on the horizon here, but been pretty busy so far. So how about you, man?
Yeah, things are going great. Kind of pulled back after my off season and get resting heart rate down a bit. It had risen a bunch, as you know, and which we'll talk about here in a minute when we start discussing today's topic. Um, I haven't had any competitors yet this year, but I do have a guy prepping for nationals. I'm a men's physique guy, so we'll see how that goes.
Hmm.
But yeah, other than that, everybody else is kind of maybe a couple of people might compete this year. We'll see. It just kind of depends on if we can get them in contest shape or not.
Yeah, and it's also got to be, you want to have people out there, but you also want to make sure they're the right people and they have the right mindset.
Yeah,
And
and
prep is
I
not
mean,
something you just do.
yeah, you know what it's like with first time competitors. I mean, it's like you really want to get them. Sometimes it's not just a 20-week prep, right? Like sometimes it's a prep and then it's you know a mini off season and then it's another prep after that where it's like you just get to a better starting place than the first time around and you kind of just get some fat off of them. That type of scenario, I've got that going on with a couple of people. So depending on how the fat loss goes will determine, you know,
Yeah,
when they compete.
first time people, pro tip: don't get too fat, or even if you've competed before, don't get too fat and think you're going to run into a nice 20-week prep. It's going to be rough, and there's going to be some things you might have to do, and you might not make all your timelines accurately. So make sure that you control yourself whenever you are in your off seasons. Do mini cuts, diet a little bit. I think honestly, people need to do a fat loss phase once a year. I think there's nothing absolutely wrong with doing a fat loss phase once a year, unless you're just one of those genetic people who just stay lean year round, which there are those
Yeah,
people. But
there
for
are
most
those
people,
guys.
I think fat loss phase every year, even if it is like a 6 to 8 week small little one, I think it'd be really good for everybody. But I think that probably leads us into our topic point for this, and because we'll talk a little bit about what's kind of going on in your off season and how that's going along with you. But let's talk about a little bit about Retatrutide.
Yeah. So we are just going to talk experiences only. I don't believe we're diving into the science of it or what it does or anything like that. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, we can give like a brief little overview so people just have a general idea. But like as far as like the chemistry and the pharmacokinetics of it, there's go to YouTube. There's tons of things if you really want to deep dive this stuff.
Yeah.
But we could
There's
probably just
tons
give
of
like a
guys much
brief,
smarter than us.
yeah, that literally do this all the time. But if you want to give like a
Yeah.
brief little breakdown of it, I think that's probably good to just distinct like what is retatrutide.
Sure. So retatrutide is your third generation, if you will, GLP-1, right? So semaglutide is your first, and then tirzepatide is your second, or more people know it as Ozempic and Mounjaro. And then retatrutide, actually, to my knowledge, has not been released has not had FDA approval yet. It is not being prescribed yet. But it basically works on three mechanisms versus one with semaglutide or Ozempic, or two with tirzepatide or Mounjaro. Um, so basically, you're just working on three different pathways to aid in your body's ability um, to process glucose. Is basically what it is. Anything you want to add to that?
Maybe just like a brief little description of like what the GLP-1 first gen was. It's basically just what you see with everybody. The lifestyle people with Ozempic is their appetite just went away. That's what it does. GLP-1 is going to be your gastric slowly emptying. It's going to suppress your appetite. there's a lot of issues that come along with that. Obviously, uh, the GIP, which is introduced into trizepatide, helps out with insulin sensitivity. It's great for diabetics. I feel like that one was a lot more targeted for diabetics specifically. My father was been on trizepatide for over a year. It's been absolutely phenomenal for him. He doesn't use any of his typical diabetic medication. He just takes his shot once a week, and his blood glucose and his everything's under control. So it's absolutely a miracle in that sense of things. And then getting into this third one adds the glucagon receptor agonist, which increases fat oxidation and actually targets fat rather than helps, which in turn helps preserve lean muscle mass, which is exactly what bodybuilding is all about, is preserving muscle tissue. This is why we
Yeah.
use anabolics in dieting phases and stuff like that.
And I think what we've noticed from the semaglutide and the tirzepatide, there seems to be this like semaglutide was very harsh on the gut. I mean, I would see people like so constipated that you would literally see it in their stomach, like it would be bloat, and it'd be
Mhm.
really bad, and they would have to take um, laxatives often to get rid of it, right? And it just caused a ton of problems. And then as tirzepatide came, it's like it's less, and then retatrutide, I see it even less. Um, so
Yeah,
with some of that does come kind of the hunger signaling is a little bit different. Um, but I do think that the retatrutide is obviously the superior drug.
yeah, it's
Um,
just a refined version. It's obviously Gen 3,
yeah,
right? It's pretty much always going to be a little bit better, refined one. I can't really speak to trying semaglutide or trizepatide. I have no personal experience
me
with
neither.
those two outside my father taking trizepatide and it helping him a shit ton. But he's an actual diabetic. As far as bodybuilding, retatrutide is the only one that I have experience in.
Yeah, and my wife has done the semaglutide, and then my father is on tirzepatide as well.
Okay.
Um, so experiences. You have started to use it during your fat loss phase, correct? You didn't start using it before.
No, so I started taking it. Let's see, March 29th, end of March, basically when I
Okay.
decided I got up to 232. Um, Obviously, it wasn't. I wasn't actually super fat at 232. I was just very full, but it was clearly that I was probably blurring the lines in between actually progressing, and I've already been down that road before. So taking it back and started using it there. Started off, I've been using the exact same dose the entire time. I've done nothing, changed nothing about it. I find for me, I crave fatty foods in certain things. Like I'm pretty good with diet stuff like that. I don't really crave sweets. I don't really care about. I don't really have huge cravings, but anytime I would have one, it'd be more for like a burger or fries or pizza or something like that. So one of the first things I noticed right away, it kind of took some of that initial noise out of it. And it did definitely affect my appetite at first. I felt like, I was like, oh God, I was like, he had me on like 3,500 calories on this initial drop. I was like, oh dude, you can lower it a bit more. I was like, I can go a little bit less than this. And then, but as it got into my bloodstream and as it leveled out, it's been very stable. I can go, a fasted period without having food for a duration, or I can get really hungry kind of randomly and be able to eat all my meals. The most important thing with that is I'm still able to eat all my meals, no problem. It's almost just making the sense of caloric restriction a little bit easier on me.
Yeah.
So in
And
the
what have
dieting
you
phase, oh sorry, go ahead.
and what have you seen with your clients and stuff like that?
I see as for the most part, for the majority of maybe your first half of your dieting phase, it helps out just kind of deal with a little bit more of the nuances bullshit of dieting for a period of time. But I have noticed as you kind of get leaner, as you get closer to show, it's strong, but it's still not strong enough than actual hunger itself. You can titrate up the dose a little bit if you want to on those. The problem is you have to worry about is digestion as you go deeper in prep, since you already start having digestion issues, um, basically just from dieting and stuff like that. So you have to be mindful of that. And as well, I usually like to kind of keep it out from people at the very, very end. You might think, ooh, that might be where you want to use it. Typically, you've already dieted for majority of it. I like kind of having off it because I need people to eat. I have given some people some thumping food while they've been on it, and it's been very hard for them to eat those refeeds despite being very hungry. So being mindful of like the gut health and stuff like that, I've noticed is a pretty important thing. Is what I do think it is also really, really good for that I'm experiencing is in between shows and post shows. It's been really, really helpful. Just kind of bridge the gap in per se, especially post show where you can see, oh, I'm done post show. I need to have freedom. It's like, no, you need to take advantage of this time and use this hypersensitivity and hold off and continue and let me kind of give you the free meals and let this process kind of slowly give out, especially over the first 4 to 6 weeks once we finish a post show. So I do think it is really good bridging between shows and post show, especially. But what I've noticed is deeper you go in prep, you're still going to be super hungry. It's just a little bit more manageable. It's a lot better than taking ADD medication. That's for sure. To try to blunt some appetite, which we've all done some crazy things to try to blunt your appetite when you're digging, especially when you're digging towards the very end.
100%. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, who've never prepped before, the deeper you get into prep and the lower your food gets, you tend to go to the bathroom a lot less. And with the Retta already slowing down your gastric emptying, what Ian is referring to is trying to avoid the buildup being even heavier than when it would be had you either not have had the Retta or had a normal food intake, but on the Retta. And so it kind of just is compounding and can cause a little bit more distension, a little bit more problems when you need to be getting rid of the food and having a tight stomach and things like that. So that's kind of what he's referring to there. Um, I have not used it in a fat loss phase yet. I have a client that is, but I actually used it in the off season, which I think that a lot of people initially would be like, why would you do that? Because the goal is to eat. Um, but what I found and kind of what I was looking at is that it helped me maintain a higher level of insulin sensitivity throughout. So I was able to, and then not only that, but at a lower dose. So I stayed at 2 milligrams the entire time. At that dose, initially it kind of killed my appetite a bit. But within about 2 weeks, I was able to eat all of my meals with no problem. The only thing that it did kill for me is I couldn't eat anything that was fried at all. It a couple of bites in, it literally made me nauseous. And then obviously, like when I did have a free meal, I didn't go crazy. But what I felt like it helped me do was keep insulin sensitivity high enough that my body was able to use the nutrients to put on muscle tissue instead of storing it as fat. Um, I'm by far much more lean, much leaner than I've ever been at 230. And it's not just marginally. It's like I'm questioning, did I put on 20 pounds of tissue this off season? Now, I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I'll only know when I diet down, but like looking at pictures, like, and weight differences, like that's what it looks like. So I actually think that this is a great drug for the off season.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's honestly it's going to be very used a lot more in bodybuilding, just because one of the most important thing is for bodybuilding is be insulin sensitivity, especially for regardless if you're doing a contest prep. If you're doing a contest prep, you're going to be insulin sensitive. It's just about pulling body fat off you. It's just managing hunger almost at that point and managing some of those duration, those longer preps, or say if you're dieting,
Mhm.
like if you're dieting like for maybe all year, like you want to do a show in October and you're going to do nationals, right, or something like that. Like you're giving your body enough time. It's also a little bit easier on the body itself, I feel like, for managing the appetite and that side effect and stuff like that. So I think off season we were both around the same dose, 2.1 for me and 2 for you. I had the same thing, that initial appetite suppressed, and then it was like it leveled off, right? It
Yeah.
became a lot more manageable, and I haven't had any stomach issues. But I wanted to chime in a little bit on kind of like you had issues with fried food, so I was already about
Yeah.
4 or 5 weeks into taking it, and then I went to Hawaii, right? You think, oh man, Hawaii, this guy's gonna fuck shit up. He's gonna go crazy. But what I found is when I was there, I was, eating what I wanted to at places I went, but what I was doing, I was just kind of eating my meal, and maybe I finished it all, maybe I didn't. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And same thing with alcohol. I would try to be like, oh yeah, tonight's the night. I'm gonna get fucked up. I'm gonna get so fucking, I'm gonna get trashed tonight. And then I'd get a drink. I would have it. I'd get a buzz, and then I'd order a second one. I would take 2 sips of it, I'd put it down, and I would never touch it. This happened 5 times. Every single night I tried. I was like, God damn it, I can't get past this first 2 sips on the second drink. So it just immediately just like killed it. It wasn't like it made me sick or nauseous. I was just kind of like,
No.
yeah, meh. Just kind of like,
Yeah,
it's
it
fine.
really does a good job of killing the noise.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like that food hunger, the constant thinking about food, the allowing it to overwhelm your brain. Like it does a really good job of just getting rid of that.
yeah.
And so that's absolutely great.
I think that's huge for
For
bodybuilders.
myself to,
There's
yeah,
a lot of people that have a lot of food noise in bodybuilding, and there's some people that are a little bit more manageable with food noise.
yeah,
I don't have a ton of food noise, but I do work with a lot of people that do have a lot of food noise,
for sure.
so it is pretty useful. Especially they're like especially in the off seasons where like you actually need to put on tissue. I can already see like from where I'm sitting at 196, 197. I look like I did last year at like 182,
Yeah.
183, and I'm taking significantly less drugs,
Hmm.
significantly, like nothing compared to. I mean, that was taking a lot before, but marginally, it's a big difference between the two for sure.
Yeah.
And I didn't let my off season go too long either, so I didn't. It's not like I had a shit ton of time to pack a lot of tissue. It was a little abbreviated off season, so
Well, I mean, arguably, I'm in a very similar boat. When I was 232 last year, I was in prep. I was on
mm, yeah, you're probably in prep. Yeah, because you started at like 240 something,
No,
240,
I'm sorry. Yeah, so when I was 232 last year, I was on 300 tests and like 100 milligrams of Primo.
100
And it
milligrams
was,
primo.
yeah, it was
Was
like
this
30 milligrams 3 times a week.
okay? I was like, what?
Yeah, I know.
Are you a
I
woman?
know. Um, I think it was literally just for estrogen control.
I think it was. Yeah,
Yeah. And then this year, when I was 230 at 232, was on 140 milligrams of test. That's it. So I mean, we're talking about half the anabolic load. But I went and compared pictures from 232 to about when I was 213, which is where I figured that I was probably about the same body fat level based on pictures. Obviously, it's just what I'm looking at. It's not necessarily the truth. I was on, 1.7 grams of gear versus 140 milligrams of test. Like, there should be a vast difference in like the pop that the muscle has and the lines that you're showing. So, um, yeah, one way or another, the stuff is effective. It works, and it's not just a dieting drug either. So,
yeah. But like anything, learn how to use it responsibly. Hire a coach that knows how to do
yeah,
it, knows how to source it, because there's a lot of bunk stuff out there as well. So make sure you have somebody that knows what they're doing. Like anything, people that are taking these semi trizepatides or even Reddits still, they might be taking too much or they might be escalating too much, and then you're still going to have problems. So you just need to make sure you have somebody that's at least experienced and educated in this matter.
100%. So, all right, let's wrap up on Reddit. Let's get to a little bit of Q&A real fast.
Yeah,
What you
so
got?
I got some questions for us. Okay, so first one, how important is it to have a training partner?
I think that's person dependent.
Yep, I think so for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, I find that it's extremely beneficial, but finding somebody that can train with you on your schedule as a bodybuilder is difficult. You've been able to find someone in Joe that kind of will follow your training and whatever you're doing at that period of time. I have never been able to find anybody to do that.
Mm.
Um, so I have always kind of worked on the method of like, as long as I'm there at a time where there are people that will push me, that is better than nobody that can spot me at all.
Mm.
So,
I think this question is probably a little bit more in tune for somebody that likes to just work out by themselves. Maybe they just go in the workout and they just do their sets. They don't ask people for spots. They don't ask for any of the stuff. You are limiting yourself immensely
100%.
by doing that. Do I think you have to have a training partner? To each his own, but I feel like if you really want to be competitive, you're going to need to have at least somebody there watching that knows how to push you or that can push you, because this shit is going to tap out unless you're an absolute psychopath, which chances are you're not one of them. So you're going to
Mostly.
need somebody to really just get those extra reps out of you, even if it is just like you said in passing. That's why I always tell people, like when you're at gyms, easiest way to make friends or even find a training partner is literally just go there and train and ask people to spot you at the time you normally train. Eventually, you might even find a training partner. That's how I found multiple of my training partners. As
Yeah.
I will literally just grab them and be like, I need you to spot me. I'm going for this, but if I don't get this, I need this. I'll tell them exactly like what I need. And turns out you get some training partners that way, or at least somebody that you can trust when you go to the gym, that
Yeah.
you're not going to kill yourself or something like that. So is it
100%.
is it important? I think it's pretty important. But again, just as long as you're training super hard, that's really what the training partner is there for.
Yep. All right.
Okay, I
Next
think this
question.
is
That
a
was easy.
good one for you. um, so this is DHB versus berberine. So this is not DHB as in anabolics. This is
Is in di is in
yeah,
yeah
yeah.
dihydroboldenone. Is that what
We are
is that what it
we
is? Yeah.
yeah we don't use that, by the way. I haven't personally used it.
I
um,
haven't either. I haven't either
so
actually. I
we
hear it's
don't
super
really
painful.
we don't really fuck with shit like that. But I think we're talking about berberine, forms of
Yeah.
berberine here. If you want to take that one away.
Yeah, I think I just did a post about this one. The dihydroberberine is just a altered form of berberine. So basically, when you take in berberine, your body converts it to dihydroberberine. It's then um, uh, absorbed through the intestinal wall, and then from there it's converted back into berberine, making berberine very low in bioavailability. I think it's something like 10% or something. I don't even remember what the number, the actual percentage was, but it's low. So berberine for some people can be kind of harsh on the gut. And dihydroberberine, because it's in such a lower dose, it doesn't have to be converted first. It tends to be much less harsh. So people don't have the same digestive issues that they have with it. I have found that it is just as effective as berberine. 200 milligrams is just as effective as 1,000 milligrams of berberine. So,
So do you have most of your people take DHB instead of berberine then?
yes, I give everybody dihydroberberine instead of regular berberine. Yeah.
Okay. What about Retatrutide? Okay.
Most importantly,
Most importantly, take Retatrutide. Okay. How do you find balance in the off season? I hear 80-20 is good, but I tend to be 100% all the time. Hope to find more enjoyment with a happy middle ground.
I mean, I'll let you take this one first.
Um, So yeah, balance in the off season. Obviously, you want to find some balance. You don't necessarily, the closer you are to 100%, you absolutely are going to be a better bodybuilder. But what does that do for your personal life and people around you and stuff like that? It's okay to be able to enjoy some things or have a meal out with your wife or whatever and stuff like that. I think the closer you are to 100%, the better. But do I feel like you need to be 100% all the time? No. 90-95 is going to just get the job done. 80-20, sure, is fine as well. Um, but you just kind of have to find your own piece, your own balance with this. And it depends on what your goals are. Do you aspire to be a competitive IFBB pro? You're going to need to lean closer a little bit to that side. Do you have elite genetics or do you not have elite genetics? You're going to need to lean closer to the 100% side. Most of us are going to need to be as 100% as we can, but obviously give ourselves some grace when we can't be, or whatever goes on in life from vacations or stuff like that. Just it's okay to live a little is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But I also think that Understanding what you mean by 80-20 is big, because I've heard people where they say, like, 80% clean, 20% trash. But then I've heard other people where they follow their meal plan 100%, like, they follow it perfectly 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time they stick to the macros, but they just alter. They may swap in and out things, and that's what they call 80-20. So I don't think that's what most people refer to as 80-20. I think most people refer to it as 80% on plan and then 20% kind of whatever they want to eat.
Yep.
um, so, but ultimately, man, it depends on your goals and who you are and what your home life looks like. If you're a single, 21, 22-year-old man that's, got a good physique already and you're looking to make a life of this, I mean, like, I feel like you have a lot more room to be 100% in the off season. But if you have a wife, you have kids, you have stuff like that, man, unless you're just a phenom, which most likely you're not, um, you kind of got to find a little bit of that, like, what looks good. Like, John Meadows used to save calories even during his preps. He used to cut back more calories during the week so that he could have a meal with his family and his kids on the weekend.
Boom.
So it's all about finding what works for you and finding that balance for you and what makes you and your family happy.
Solid. Okay, so the next one. Do you take any nitric oxides before training? Yes, Cialis. Next one.
I take Cialis like
uh,
once a week. Otherwise, it's
yeah, be
not
careful.
okay.
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah.
So I do take like a pump. I don't really necessarily overanalyze my pump or be like super scientific or anything like that. I might take NOs like on days that I really want to feel mind muscle connection, like my arms or my back or something like that. Maybe a lagging body part or a body
Yeah.
part that I'm trying to bring up. I'll take a nitric oxide or something like that. If I want to take a pre workout or a small stimulant, I'll also put it on a weak body part or a day that I know I'm gonna trash a body part. So, but I
Yeah.
don't try not to do it all the time.
Yeah. For me in the off season, I'm generally having like some insulin and a lot of carbohydrates intra workout. So, like, I don't really need a nitric oxide because the pump is already like debilitatingly painful.
Oh yeah, just use insulin,
Um,
guys.
yeah. And then during contest prep, when I'm not using that stuff, I'm probably using a lot of stimulants, to be honest. So
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know
for
how much
sure.
the nitric oxide works,
No.
but yeah, they kind of counterbalance each other. So I don't really use a ton of them, to be honest. I do use Cialis to help for, blood pressure and overall blood flow, stuff like that. But you know,
Yeah, I think that's. I used to be a little. I only probably use NOs more often when I'm in a contest prep or I'm in a fat loss
yeah,
phase when I'm a bit leaner, when I can actually like maybe get a little bit more out of it in a sense of
yeah,
a little visual cue for me. But other than that, I don't really hyper focus on it very much. I
yeah.
used to a lot.
When carbs are low, like, for sure it can be beneficial, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. What nutrition certifications are really worth getting? So I answered this one on my story. So I have a few. There's obviously a bunch out there. You can kind of just go with whatever. I don't think you necessarily need any of these, but if you're really just interested in education like I am and just love learning about this shit, I do think they're worthwhile, especially if you just like to like read and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So NASM has one. National Academy of Sports Medicine has a nutrition certification. It's pretty good. It's a pretty standard by the book one. I think Precision Nutrition is a little bit better, and it's a little bit more. The textbook is a little bit more colorful, interesting, better illustrations and stuff like that. I honestly just like how the chapters are a bit set out. Then J3U is also a really good one that actually does nutrition in corporation with bodybuilding style of training. So if you're really interested in learning a lot about stuff like that, especially hydration, they go in deep dive into some of these things. So really, really good with that one. And then I think I answered. I think this person is in college, so I said if you are in college, do some nutrition courses. That way
Yep.
you can get some textbook things and actually maybe have a chance to do some like labs or in-person projects about nutrition and dietetics and stuff like that. So the more if you're really interested in stuff like that, those are just a few that I can attest to that are just really good and just help you have a better understanding of just the basics of biology and nutrition, thermodynamics, all those other
Yeah,
things.
I think that that NASM is actually coming out with a bodybuilding certification in
Yep, they are.
conjunction with the NPC IFBB.
Yeah, I think
Um,
Dean's doing that one. He's doing the PEDs. The Dean
oh, he's
from
writing the course.
yep, he is.
Dean St. Smart.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll obviously we'll take that one once that rolls out.
Which is kind of weird that they national they went with that. I think it's cool, but I was like, oh, okay, NASA.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I'm cool with that. I think it is important to have education. There are some people that just have coaches that just their only education is
Yeah.
experience, and I understand that experience does matter significantly. But if I ask
Mhm.
that person a question about something very basic when it comes to education, and they can't answer it, they can just say like, "Well, this works for that." I'm like, you need to know the ins and outs of these things to really be a master of this stuff. So definitely
To some
get your
degree for
education.
sure. I mean, look, here's the reality. I have no nutrition certifications. I haven't taken any courses. I was a food science and nutrition major in college. I did not graduate, but I did take
You have
those
some.
courses. Yeah, about half of those courses, including some courses that I wasn't even supposed to be in yet because I didn't have the prereqs for it. How that happened, I don't know, but yeah, and I have no certifications. Basically, everything that I've consumed has been free, but all of the textbooks that college kids have available to you, you have yourself. You
Mhm.
have access to those. So, yeah, I just read and listen to people much smarter than me.
Yes, read and listen to people that are a lot smarter than you. That is honestly one of the best ways to do it.
I
Okay.
mean, I don't know about you, but like uh, sometimes when I'm reading, I don't always absorb everything that I'm reading.
Oh
And
no, like
so
most of the times when I read my bodybuilding books, I usually have read them multiple times.
yeah. Yeah,
Like
because I like my mind will wander. I'm reading the words. I could
yeah,
read back what to you what it said, but 10 minutes from now I wouldn't retain most of the information, especially the deeper that it gets. So I need a little bit more
hands
application to
on.
the real world, yeah, hands-on or having conversations about it, stuff like that, for me to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, usually when I'm reading these books or whatever forms, articles that I'm reading into, I take my time. I'm like reading it, I'm thinking about it in my head, applying it, or where I would see that fit. There's also a ton of really good books out there that you guys can do, but obviously YouTube is great. There's a ton of information out there on YouTube. If you just are, willing to search for it, it is there readily
Yep.
available for you. So
Yep.
I just have a couple more here. This one's a little bit interesting. What's your go-to refeed protocol for someone deep in a fat loss phase? And besides the obvious answer of being completely dependent on what that person is, um, besides the obvious answer of that,
Yeah.
a general rule of thumb is you're going to bump up carbs and you're going to bump them up around a training day, preferably on a weaker body part or a lagging flat muscle body part. So it's kind of just a general idea of what the fuck you're doing there.
Yeah. I also I use them typically when I see somebody's weight stall for several days in a row or even rise. Like if we see 2 days where it's risen in a row and we've been pushing kind of hard, I'm
Yeah.
probably going to give them more food, and it's going to be straight carbs. I'm going to say something like add an extra 100 grams of carbs today. You can add it however you want, but it's got to be just straight carbs. Um, yeah,
Yeah. That's a good frame of mind there. Tracking people, you will need to use refeed, not even just from a data perspective for peaking them, but for just to keep them moving along. Like especially if they're not using any T3, T4, you're gonna have to make sure that
Yeah.
you keep their metabolism firing. I generally kind of like to do that anyways with their programming. I'll have train day and a rest day, and I'll have like a day that's really shitty for them. And I'll have a higher
Yep.
food day, and then I'll just take it and pull it, take it, pull it, take it, pull it as I see their body trend. I'll be like, okay, take it down, pull it down, pull it.
Yep.
I'll just play around with it like that. So I can keep that body part. Um, don't let it fade too fast. Okay, as a bodybuilding coach, what do you consider to help your female athletes choose their division? I think this is a little bit more. I think for females, it's a because every female has like the idea of what they want to look like. I mean, guys too, but like we're pretty easy to kind of fit into. Like unless you have a dude that just doesn't like doing leg days, then you're like, okay, you're probably just this,
We we have a lot less divisions than they
Yeah,
do.
yeah, they have
I
like
think we have half.
they have a lot more divisions, and each one of those divisions is pretty distinctly different than the other
Yeah.
one. Um, so I don't know if you want to go into that one.
Sure. What we're looking for is a couple of things: muscularity, balance from head to toe. Actually, those are probably the two primary things. Like structurally, where do you put on muscle at? Because we're talking about wellness versus bikini. A wellness person has got much larger legs and glutes than they do upper body, and so we're looking for a large disparity in muscle mass. Versus bikini is going to be much more even, but we're going to be on the smaller side. Now, if we're even but on the bigger side, we can move to figure, and then from there, women's physique is just going to be much more muscular, and then women's bodybuilding is more muscular, right? But we're looking for even amounts of muscle top to bottom, whereas wellness is a large muscle discrepancy. So really, it's about muscle tissue and where it's placed.
How do you help them choose that if you have a female that comes to you and they say they want to do figure?
How do I help them choose that?
They've
Well,
never
typically,
done a show.
what I tell women especially is I say, let's get lean enough and then let's look at you and see where you fit best. Because I do think to some degree, like where you're going to lie at that point in time is going to dictate your placing, right? Because if you have enough musculature to be figure, but you want to compete in bikini, like that's not going to work. You're not going to place well.
Yep.
So
I
what
think
I'm going to do first, and I've got a client like this right now. She doesn't know if she wants to do figure or wellness. She has pretty large legs and glutes, with some decent shoulders on her. So it's like we just need to get enough fat off and get her lean enough to determine like does much more fat come off those legs or does much more, you know what I mean? Like how is her fat distribution, and what does she look like when she's 10 weeks out? Like at a
yeah,
10-week out leanness.
yeah,
That's
like
what
a
I mean.
10 week outlook. Yeah. So I believe I kind of answered this on mine, and I said I basically say your genetics will basically predispose you to what division you're going to fit in, despite PED's involvement. You could have someone, a girl that like wants to be bikini and she's training her ass off and she's fucking killing it in the gym, and she's just not putting on any tissue or nothing's kind of, she's just fitting that division where there's usually female body types that fit a certain architecture within that division and stuff like that, where you can kind of see like, oh yeah, she's putting on a lot of muscle. I don't think I can keep her in bikini because her body wants to grow. It's the same
Yep.
thing when a guy says they want to be an open pro bodybuilder. You you will know if you're if you can be an open pro bodybuilder because you won't be able to stop growing. You will just
Yep.
anything you do to the body, you just your tissue, just add tissue to it. So I do think a lot of that is genetic factors. And obviously, if you have a girl that's like in figure or something like that, I think figure is a little bit one of those ones where you could probably play around with it a little bit. If you want to go to women's physique, you probably can, but it's going to take that next level of risk assessment to see if you want to be able to go to that level that a women's physique is in
Well,
comparison to like maybe like a wellness or something like that.
yeah. And the reality is that at the amateur level, you're not going to find many competitors in figure or wellness or women's physique.
No.
So in reality, you could probably move to each one and see which one you like more.
Yeah.
At the national level, you're going to run into some more competition, especially in figure. Uh, Women's physique, you will too, but it's going to be less than figure.
Mhm.
And the more muscular the women get, the less competition there is. So,
Yeah, because there's just really not a whole lot of super jacked females, and if
yeah,
they usually are, they're going to be visiting national shows probably pretty frequently,
yeah,
anyways, because that's where all the competition is, anyways. Um, so yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of go about it. Is you can lead them to which way they want, but if they are built more a certain way, they might not just fit a division. It's kind of like if I wanted to do men's physique, there's no fucking way I'm going to do men's physique. I don't have the shape or structure for it.
yeah. I mean, let's just go ahead and talk about the men's divisions as well, real fast.
Yeah, sure.
I think that the men's divisions are even more distinct than the women's, even though a lot of people at the amateur level like to blur the lines a bit.
Yeah, they cross over and they do every freaking division. I've seen it.
Yeah,
Men's physique,
yeah.
bodybuilding, and classic.
And
Dude,
even though they don't fit, they
can't do
win
that.
because they are the leanest and they
Yeah.
have the best muscularity, right? When you're looking at a men's physique guy, there is a large genetic predisposition for the guys that are really, really good. They have great abs, great obliques, tiny, and then broad shoulders, right? And they have a pretty look to them. They're not ugly like most open pro bodybuilders, right? Like open pro bodybuilders are not the prettiest guys. The men's physique guys are.
Yeah. Men's physique's pretty.
Yeah. And then when we go to classic, like we're looking for lines and beauty and flow. A wide blocky waist doesn't work for that. And just because you fit the weight class doesn't mean you're classic. It
Right.
just means you're a small bodybuilder competing in classic.
Yeah. Which is kind of like you said, you do have people like that. There's somebody at the Branch Warren who clearly is a bodybuilder and he fit into class A. Sure, he won that easy, but it's like you look at him and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're a bodybuilder. There's just nothing classic about you. You're just so fucking dense and you don't have, it's not a shape thing. It's just, you you look like a bodybuilder. You're just not
Yep.
super pretty. The flow is not there. So you see that a lot. You see a lot of people in classic where it can be a little frustrating. You have somebody in class A, B, or C or whatever. You don't see it too much in D because it's just a different discrepancy for height. But you will see those like light heavyweight, middleweight, heavyweight bodybuilders hop into those classes just because they can make that weight cap and they can just carb up and they can fill out and they can just look 30 pounds above their weight cap. And you're sitting next to them and you're just like, how the fuck did you make that?
Yeah.
Which
I
is
need to
happens a
show you
lot.
the I need to show you the pictures from my first show in 2018. The guy who won my class in classic. I need to show you those pictures. You're gonna laugh. Um,
See, not classic. Is he just big as fuck or what?
bro.
Just huge.
I don't know how he fit in the weight class, to be honest.
You're like, can you get on a scale right now?
But yeah, dude, this guy was massive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that about wraps that up.
Yeah. Okay, there is two more. I'll do this one first. How do you use Retatrutide for bodybuilders when it's a strong appetite suppressant? Um,
You already
I
explained that.
Yep. Just don't do big shots.
Yeah,
That's kind of the easy answer
keep
for
it
that one.
keep it what 1.5 to 2 milligrams. Split it up into 2 or 3 doses throughout the week.
Yep.
And
Or
the
microdose
appetite,
if you want to.
yeah, the appetite suppression won't be
No.
it'll hit you a little bit, but then you'll be able to kind of overcome it pretty easily.
Yeah. I think the biggest issues with any GLP is taking it all at once, every once a week.
Yeah,
They're like,
yeah.
oh my God, I
The
can't eat.
the only time I ever experienced nausea
Oh God.
was I believe I accidentally took double the dose I was supposed to. So I instead of taking 1 milligrams, I took 2 milligrams,
Oh
and for the
God.
next couple of days I was nauseous.
Yeah, you're like, I
So
can't eat. Yeah, so don't do
yeah,
that.
it was very obvious I had taken a higher dose than what I was previously taking.
Okay, last one. This is a fun one, maybe. Which do you prefer, Mastron or Prima Bolin?
Masteron.
Yeah, I think in general, in most settings, I like Mastron. I haven't run Primo super high or super often, but the problem with Primo is not that it's expensive, is that the frequency of your shot volume goes up significantly, which makes it more of a pain in the ass than anything. It literally is a pain in the ass if you have to take, I see some case studies where I see open pro bodybuilders taking 800,000 milligrams of Primo on top of all their other stuff. I'm like, I don't know where you're putting that shit, but I'm impressed.
I have found a higher dose Primo. I mean, I've gotten it at 200 milligrams per ml
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
before. I just, to me, I just don't have the same, like, I
Response.
just don't feel like it works as well as Mastron does.
Mm. I feel like it's also in that sense of things is you're picking between which side effect are you kind of playing around with. If you take Primo, sometimes it crashes your estrogen. Sometimes it just doesn't do much for
Yeah.
estrogen. For me, it didn't do too much for estrogen wise, so I probably need to take a significant amount more to balance out my ratio. Probably a
Yeah.
1 to 1 would probably be a ratio. But again, you don't want to take, I don't want to take 700 tests and 700 Primo. It's a lot of fucking,
Yeah.
that's not fun.
It's a lot of oil.
It's a lot of oil. Yeah, we don't play that. But
Yeah.
overall, I like Masteron better. It's going to be a little bit more suppressant for estrogen, at least for me. It's a little bit better, a little bit easier on my lipids. Um, and again, you get a cosmetic effect with Masteron. You take Masteron, it does give you a papery, drier looking um, texture to the skin. Primo doesn't do that, not from what I've seen.
Yeah. I found that Mastron tends to have a little bit more, um, yeah, just overall effects
Hmm.
than Primo does, and I would say that's probably why I choose it more so than.
Yeah, I have some people that are like, oh, which one to pick, Masteron Primo? I'm worried about my hair loss. I'm like, you're already taking testosterone, buddy. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen.
My hair loss actually got kind of bad whenever I started. So I had one prep where I used Mastron throughout, and it was at a, I don't know, 600-700 milligram range probably,
Okay.
and then post show we ran it for another 8 to 10 weeks. I don't know. It was just testing Masteron, and I stayed at that 600-700 milligram dosage. That's when I actually saw the most hair loss. Now, thankfully, I was able to get some of that back, but that's when it became noticeable. So
Yeah. So I feel like you got to
um,
find that. That's obviously a dose and duration dependent, right?
it was a duration. Yeah, exactly. You're 100% right.
Yeah. So like if you use taking 300 for the same amount of
Mhm.
time, he probably would have seen significantly less
For
rather
sure.
than taking 600, 800 for 16 weeks. Let's say that.
Yeah. Also, when it comes to hair loss, man, that shit's genetic. Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna lose your hair, you're gonna lose your hair. Like, the PEDs are just gonna speed that up.
Yeah. Most people that you see that are bald not because of PEDs. They're bald because they're genetics.
100%. Yeah.
So if it's in it, it's in it. By the way, you can also get hair transplants. Just
Yeah.
FYI, there's a lot worse side effects that come from bodybuilding that you can't fix. So if you're worried about your hair, just
Hair's the least of your worries.
it's more of a vanity thing for I think a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, but if your hair goes, just bump up your drugs. You might as well go all in.
Cut it off,
Cut it off.
get
Go
tatted, and
get
grow a
tatted.
beard.
So
Nobody
so
cares.
so that's the key. Is once the hair goes, tattoos come in.
That's what my wife says. She says
I don't think I can
when
grow a
you go
beard though.
bald,
Yeah,
you have
just
to
get
get
tatted.
tatted,
Yeah, of
a
course.
full sleeve, and we'll be okay.
That's why I don't have any tattoos yet. I'm waiting.
Yeah.
I'm anticipating it so I can be like, oh shit, yeah, there you go. Okay, yeah.
Time to go, baby.
Now you're distracted. 240. Now you're
Yeah,
distracted.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I
All
think
right,
that
man.
covers it, and that was
Well,
a very solid,
yeah,
episode.
that's the longest episode we've done. Solid
PR.
50 minutes there. So somebody's gonna enjoy watching us. Hopefully, we'll see if they
Please
make it all the way through.
like, subscribe, comment if you made it to the end of this, and say that you love us. Say
That's you, Dave.
I love
You
this
hear me?
podcast. Yeah, that's Dave. Say I love you guys. If you
Yep.
make it to the end of this podcast, down below in the comment section, like, subscribe, thumbs up, hit the notification bell, all the above.
Later, peeps.
Peace.